We continue J.F. Rutherford's analysis of the book of Zechariah in the book Preparation in 1933. He goes on, one day that is known and as belonging to Jehovah. Quote, the period of time from the beginning of the kingdom until the vindication of Jehovah's name at Armageddon is a period of time separate and distinct from the 1,000-year reign of Christ. The light of the temple class continues to grow brighter as Jehovah unfolds his prophecy to them for their admonition and comfort. What a day of blessedness it is to those who continue to maintain their integrity toward Jehovah, particularly from and after 1926. Jehovah's Witnesses are the ones to know about it and appreciate it, and now make it known to others. What are they alluding to in 1926?
Well, it's after they're failed, 25.
Yeah. In other words, Rutherford, and I think behind him his shadow author, Fred Franz, are saying that only those who are loyal to Jehovah, meaning the Watchtower organization, after 1926, after the last of their chain of failed prophecies has gone by.
Yeah.
And we know it from statistics, check this out on JW Facts, that there was a great falling away in the years from 1926 to 1928.
But then they, like it just seems so silly to say to know about it and appreciate it. To know that you failed? Like, what reason do they have to be loyal to you?
This is the day belonging to Jehovah?
Yeah.
Okay, the day of their failure and their embarrassment.
Yeah.
At evening time it will become light. Quote, the lightning flashes from Jehovah's temple, furnishing the illumination to his people, and this illumination is a reward for their running to and fro, seeking an increase of knowledge, a reference to Daniel 12. So they're mixing and matching scriptures that have to do with increase of knowledge to excuse their false prophecies.
Yeah.
And saying, we are loyal to Jehovah's organization despite the fact that we were humiliated publicly.
Yeah. I think, it's kind of this idea that if you say it often enough, people will believe it, even if it's crazy or nonsense.
How about this? Well, now we've got specific references at the end of the text to the land. What are they going to do with all of the geographical references? It sounds like a very, earthquake again. A gigantic earthquake has happened according to the text itself, and the land has actually changed. Not the geography, the places are still where they were before, but the land has changed, the topography as we call it, if we're into geology. The topography of the land has been changed, a valley has been created.
Yeah.
Well, this of course, let's see what they do. The whole land will be changed. The whole land will be changed, like the Arabah. Arabah is a relatively fertile and flat land down south in the Promised Land. From Geba to Rimmon rather. Quote, symbolically, says that those of God's organization in the land of the living would be made like a blossoming plain.
Yeah.
So the land of Israel has been changed to the land of the living. In other words, the planet Earth.
Yeah, I suppose.
From the gate of Benjamin, all the way to the place of the first gate, all the way to the corner gate. Now, Zechariah would know where these gates are. He's walked through them many, many, many times. Quote, manifestly this does not refer to literal gates.
No reason given why, just it isn't, manifestly.
But to entryway of God's organization. The Lord's angels guard the gates and admit only the faithful approved ones. So who can get into God's city? Only the faithful approved. See, the Watchtower's dogma has changed a lot since Russell's day, and you can see it right here. By the time of 1933, Rutherford has got rid of grace. Now, we can't say that Russell didn't believe in grace. His books are full of the idea of God's undeserved kindness and grace. But by the time you get to 1933, all has changed.
Yeah.
It's those deserving, faithful, approved ones who get into God's city. From the Tower of Hananel all the way to the press vats of the king. This part of the prophecy seems to say the joy of the Lord. King's wine presses. So we're kind of back to Revelation 14 here.
Yeah.
The joy of the Lord, wine, as well as divine watchfulness, care, preservation, and favor are sure to Jehovah's restored remnant. And this is pictured by restoring the Tower of Hananel.
Yeah. It actually doesn't mean anything. You strung a bunch of sentences together that mean nothing.
You're getting a little upset?
Yeah. Well,
Just like you did in the day?
Yeah, it's just like unbelievable.
Okay. Now, we attached to this segment analyzing their view of Zechariah 14 a quote from Jeremiah that we thought was relevant by now.
Yeah.
In the way even Vivian was looking at these kind of explanations and shaking her head.
So this is a portion from that 200-page document we talked about before in one of our previous episodes when we were trying to explain our problems, and this was a scripture that I thought was a good zinger.
A zinger.
Yeah. So Jeremiah 23, verse 30 to 32, and verse 36. Here I am against the prophets, is the utterance of Jehovah, the ones who are stealing away my words, each one from his companion. Here I am against the prophets, is the utterance of Jehovah, the ones who are employing their tongues that they may utter forth an utterance. Here I am against the prophets of false dreams, is the utterance of Jehovah, who relate them and cause my people to wander about because of their falsehoods and because of their boasting. But I myself did not send them or command them, so they will by no means benefit this people, is the utterance of Jehovah. But the burden of Jehovah mention no more, you people, for the burden itself becomes to each one his own word, and you have changed the words of the living God, Jehovah of armies, of our God.
So both Ezekiel and Jeremiah address this issue of the false prophets in those days, bringing forth the burden of Jehovah, the word of Jehovah, from their own minds, from their own hearts, from their own imagination. That was what the false prophets did.
Yeah.
And you've changed the very word of Jehovah. Okay. You know, if you've read Revelation or Deuteronomy for that matter, what happens if you add to or subtract from the words of Jehovah.
And when you're reinterpreting all the words that are actually there, that's what you're doing.
We saw that in 1987. Even you had begun to see that's their habit. Yeah. So in the next segment, we'll want to do some comparisons of the way they approach a text like Zechariah 14 with the way the detested commentators of Christendom do it.
The teachers of the church, how they represented it and viewed it.
Next time.